isnata jahash. Shihochausich. Shizihik ishitam shapido edemashili.
Denis Villeneuve's Dune saga is moving full speed ahead, with Dune 3 aiming for a late 2026 release. But as exciting as that sounds, this third film, based on Frank Herbert's Dune Messiah, should be where the journey ends. Even though Herbert wrote 6 Dune books, including another one featuring Timothée Chalamet's Paul Atreides, continuing beyond Dune 3 wouldn't be the right move. It's not just about staying faithful to the source material, it's about preserving the impact of the story Villeneuve has built so far. For one, more movies would pull Villeneuve away from other projects, and let's be real, his vision and talent are too good to be tied down to just Dune. Plus, adapting the later books could actually damage the legacy of this franchise. Sure, hardcore fans might want to see every book play out on screen, but Paul Atreides' story is best suited for Dune and Dune Messiah. Anything beyond that starts to unravel what made his character so compelling in the first place. That's because Dune 3 is shaping up to be the perfect send-off for Paul. The way Dune Messiah ends leaves his fate a mystery, which is exactly how a character like Paul should go out. In the book, Paul loses his sight and his ability to see the future. Following Fremen tradition, he walks into the desert, essentially becoming one with Arrakis. This isn't just some random exile, it's his way of securing the loyalty of the Fremen to House Atreides for generations to come. If Villeneuve stays true to this, Dune 3 won't show Paul dying. Instead, Chalamet's Paul will disappear into the vast desert, undefeated yet deeply human. That's the kind of ending that fits this trilogy perfectly. He started as this mysterious, almost mythical figure, and that aura will remain intact even in his final moments on screen. Of course, Dune 3 will have some differences from the book, just like the first 2 films did. But Villeneuve has done a great job sticking to the essence of Herbert's storytelling. So, it makes sense to expect that Paul's story will close out in a way that honors his legacy while still leaving things open-ended enough to let audiences wonder. Now, here's where things get tricky. If Villeneuve decides to push beyond Dune 3 and adapt Children of Dune, it could completely ruin Paul's story. In Children of Dune, Paul returns from the desert as a mysterious preacher, only to be killed in public by his sister Alia's forces, despite her not wanting it to happen. That kind of ending doesn't work for a character who has been built up as a legendary hero across multiple films. Not only is Paul's death in Children of Dune anticlimactic, but it also takes away from everything he did before. Walking into the desert was supposed to be his final act, his way of embracing fate. Bringing him back only to have him die in such a random way undercuts the entire arc Villeneuve and Chalamet have worked so hard to craft. It's clear that Herbert was making a comparison between Paul and historical or religious figures like Jesus Christ, who also spent time in the desert before returning to preach, only to be executed. But what works in literature doesn't always translate well to film. And in the case of Paul, this return would just feel unnecessary and even frustrating for audiences who have followed his journey so far. Beyond Paul's story, dragging the series out with more movies could actually hurt the Dune franchise. There's already some skepticism about how Villeneuve will handle Dune Messiah because it's a much darker, more complex story than the first Dune. If that's a challenge, then Children of Dune would be even tougher to adapt. And don't even get started on the last 3 books. Things just get weirder and more complicated from there. And let's not forget Villeneuve himself. He's a filmmaker with a massive range of talent, and he's already given years of his life to Dune. He's got other incredible projects in the works, including a nuclear apocalypse movie that could be groundbreaking. If he keeps going with Dune, he won't have the time to explore these other creative ideas. Think about it. His last non-Dune movie was Blade Runner 2049 in 2017. By the time he finishes Dune 3, it'll have been a whole decade since he worked on anything else. That's a long time for a director as visionary as Villeneuve to be locked into a single franchise. Ending with Dune 3 isn't just good for Villeneuve, it's great for the trilogy as a whole. If done right, this trilogy could go down as one of the greatest sci-fi series ever, on the same level as Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Just like Nolan's take on Batman had a clear beginning, middle, and end, Villeneuve's Dune movies would stand the test of time, setting a new standard for epic sci-fi storytelling. In fact, Dune Messiah's ending even mirrors The Dark Knight Rises in some ways. Just like Bruce Wayne's fate is left uncertain at the end of Nolan's trilogy, Paul Atreides' final moments would also be left open to interpretation. It's the kind of storytelling that sticks with people long after the credits roll. Even though Villeneuve has said his Dune films aren't technically a trilogy, since the first two movies adapt a single book, audiences will still see them as one cohesive story. It just makes sense to leave it at 3. And it's not like Dune fans will be left with nothing. HBO's Dune Prophecy series is already expanding the universe, and more spin-offs could follow, covering other books and prequels. But for a lot of casual viewers, Villeneuve's films will be the definitive Dune experience. That's why he should stick to his original vision, quality over quantity. If Dune 3 is truly the best possible ending for Paul Atreides, then there's no need to stretch the story further. Villeneuve has built something incredible, and he should let it end on a high note. Furthermore, Hans Zimmer has given an update on Dune Part 3, and it sounds like he's got his work cut out for him. During a Q&A session at Hans Zimmer and Friends, Diamond in the Desert, the legendary composer was asked about his progress on Dune Messiah, and he admitted he hasn't actually started working on it yet. But there's a reason for that, according to Zimmer. It's a very complicated one. Now, whether he's talking about the film itself or just his score isn't exactly clear, but given what we know about Dune Messiah, complicated seems like a fitting word. Unlike the first two movies, which adapted Frank Herbert's Dune novel, Messiah takes the story in a different direction. Set 12 years after Dune Part 2, it challenges everything we thought we knew about Paul Atreides. For anyone who saw Paul as a heroic figure, Messiah serves as a reality check, highlighting the dangers of Messiah figures and the dark side of absolute power. And that presents a real challenge for Denis Villeneuve. The first two Dune movies leaned into the sci-fi epic spectacle, but Messiah is much more introspective, with fewer large-scale battles and more political intrigue. Turning that into a blockbuster that still resonates with fans of the first two films won't be easy, and Zimmer's comment hints at just how tricky the adaptation could be. Still, Zimmer says he's dedicating himself fully to the project, which is a good sign. With his history of crafting unforgettable scores and Villeneuve's vision, Dune Part 3 has all the potential to be something special, if they can figure out how to navigate its complexities. And that's a wrap for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Got ideas for future videos? Drop them in the comments. We love hearing what you want to see next. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because we've got some exciting updates coming soon, including what's next for the Dune universe after Dune Part 3. Stay tuned and let us know your thoughts on today's topic in the comments below.